What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. It's Arkansas LSU game week. We're going to talk about the matchup. We're going to bring Connor Goodson on to talk about the tip-off tour with Arkansas basketball, and maybe we'll get to your questions as well if we have some time. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. Got a little bit of an echo going. Hold on. Go live. Get off Instagram. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. We didn't do the show last week, so we got a little rusty, I guess. All right, everybody. So Arkansas and LSU at, 6 o'clock, ESPN. Another top 10 matchup. LSU is ranked number 8 in the country. Pretty exciting. I'm going to go over a couple of things that I've, kind of said leading up to this game. Some stuff leading up to the Tennessee game, how things are playing out, kind of the state of the program type of stuff. But let's just do a little bit of housekeeping because the Mississippi State game, the time is set for that. That is at 11:45 a.m. at Davis-Wade Stadium. That's in 12 days. So that's the Week 9 matchup. Arkansas projected to win that one, but you never know. It's a road game in the SEC, and as we know, road games are always tough. Arkansas in this one is a 2.5-point favorite. I saw it open earlier in the week at 3.5. I think in the preseason this was at like 9. Arkansas was plus 9. So right now it's Arkansas plus 2.5. It was plus 3.5. And that's a pretty good line because the last 4 times these teams have met, the game has been decided by exactly 3 points. Injury news. So we spoke to Sam Pittman today. This was the first time that we've had a chance to talk to him since Wednesday when we did the SEC teleconference. Asked him some of the things that he, said in the teleconference about position moves. He didn't really clarify any of that. Didn't know if he's just kind of speaking generally, but he brought up Hudson Clark's name. He also talked a little bit about the offensive line and Patrick Kutas being available. What does available mean? Does that mean he's going to play? That just means he might be available. So what does that mean? I don't know if you shake up the offensive line at this point when it looks like they're starting to finally get in some, cohesiveness. So the latest injury news right now, Taylon Green, everybody wants to know he's got a bone bruise. We would say he's probable right now. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that he's going to play. It could mean coach speak, but from Sam Pittman, he practiced last week. Even when they just did the walkthrough stuff, obviously he was going to do that no matter what he said. But he did practice some last week. He'll have a better idea Tuesday or Wednesday. Of course, Wednesday at 7, we get the official report where it's going to list Taylon Green probably as probable. That's what I would expect. So doesn't look very good on Jalen Braxton. We thought maybe he would be back, but it doesn't sound like he will. Rodney Hill sounds doubtful also. And, maybe Hudson Clark did play a little bit of cornerback against Tennessee. So maybe that's something that they look at with Hudson, filling him in there. Defense is playing pretty well. I don't know if I'd shake up too much. But also probable Miguel Mitchell, who has been out all season, and Andreas Posca, who has been dealing with concussion and looks like he'll be back, and looks like they're going to be a lot healthier at tight end also. And that's an area where they've been a little beaten up. So we still don't know on Taylon Green. I've got buddies talking to me like about betting on this game and the lines moving, and like you don't know if you can count. Like you've never known if you could count on players in college. It makes it difficult. But like if you needed to go like online and place a bet on Bet Saracen or something, you do know that you could always count on Ozark Go because Ozark Go is very reliable. Ozark Go is fantastic internet service up here in Northwest Arkansas. I hear they're getting into Texas. They're in parts of Oklahoma, but think north of the tunnel, 479-684-4900, ozarksgo.net/hog. If you go to the website, you can use the promo code BIDDY1, BIDDY1, and you can get a month free. Again, this is a local company. I've used these guys for over 3 years now. I've never one time unplugged my router. I mean, that's all you need to say. Like, do you have to go unplug your router and plug it back in? No, I haven't. That's been my experience. So, fantastic internet service. I was talking with people up there the other day just about some ideas and stuff. Really appreciate that partnership, and because it's a company that I believe in. ozarksgo.net/hog. Check them out, Northwest Arkansas. If you call them at 479-684-4900, you're going to talk to a local person also. You're not getting shipped off to a call center. They're going to know what you mean when you're talking about north of the tunnel. Okay, so we should obviously expect another four-quarter battle because that is what this game has been each of the last 4 years. Just to kind of recap how things have gone. Last year, Arkansas, a lot of people had thought Arkansas, isn't it amazing, like your attitude after a win, like they could beat anybody. People talk about beating Texas in a few weeks. It's a month away and people are talking about beating Texas. But after you win a game, you feel like anything's possible. And, going into the game last year, I don't think people felt like that because they just lost to BYU and everybody kind of felt like they're going to Baton Rouge to get the doors blown off. And they played them to a 3-point game. Jaden Daniels went off in the second half. They kicked a game-winning field goal with 5 seconds left after Arkansas had marched down to tie it, and LSU won 34-31 in Baton Rouge. If you remember back in 2022, Arkansas was out without KJ Jefferson. They had to roll with Malik Hornsby. They could get nothing going. If you guys remember the Harold Perkins play where he chases Malik Hornsby down, who's one of the fastest players in the country, that was a standout play. Harold Perkins out for the season with a torn ACL this year. I guess that's 2 weeks ago. But Arkansas only mustered 249 yards of offense. They lost, 13-10? I believe that was a 13-10 game. And then the year before in 2021, Arkansas went to Baton Rouge and won a 16-13 game. The two teams combined for just 591 yards of total offense, 308 for the Tigers, only 283 for the Hogs. Garrett Nussmeier was the starting quarterback, or not the starting quarterback. He came in relief of Max Johnson after 2 series when Johnson was ineffective, and that's when Arkansas first saw him. He was a true freshman that year. He only played in 4 games, so he's able to redshirt, and now here he is, a redshirt junior coming to Fayetteville to compete against the Hogs again. First time in a while that Arkansas hasn't faced a very young quarterback. They faced, Auburn, redshirt freshman, Texas A&M redshirt freshman, Tennessee redshirt freshman. Now they're getting a redshirt junior, and Nussmeier, who not extremely agile, but agile enough. Guy's got a really big arm. You go back to the COVID season in 2019, Arkansas probably should not have played that game if you remember how decimated they were on the offensive line just from contact tracing and all that crap you had to deal with then. And they just didn't have anybody available on the defensive line. Alabama, the week prior, the LSU-Alabama game was postponed because of COVID issues, and Arkansas opted to play, and LSU won 27-24 in that one, lost on a kick. That was one of a lot of games that was lost on a kick that year. So you're looking at LSU, not a strong running team this year. Nussmeier is 160 of 249 passing, 64.3%. for 1,989 yards and 18 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. He's only rushed 8 times for 11 yards, but he's agile enough to, he's not going to pick up a lot of yardage on the ground, but he can get away from people, and, he's pretty savvy back there. John Emery Jr. looked like he was coming on in the season opener, and then he was lost. I believe he tore his ACL. I can't remember exactly, but he's lost for the season. You got Josh Williams and Caden Durham, who's kind of carried the load against Ole Miss. Durham rushed 12 times for 37 yards. Williams had 9 for 34. So Durham is just a freshman, really highly regarded recruit, number 5 running back in the country, according to 24/7 Sports composite ranking. Kyron Lacey, back-to-back 100-yard receiving efforts. He's having a career year. He's got 30 catches for 463 yards. He's a senior. He's never had 30 catches so far. Mason Anderson back, 33 for 323 and a touchdown. Aaron Anderson, 30 catches for 452 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver, more of a shifty wide receiver for them. They've always had good wide receivers at LSU, but what's been a little surprising in the last couple years is not that stud running back. So kind of a committee approach right now. Offensive line has combined for 121 starts, and that doesn't include 15 starts Miles Frazier had at FIU before transferring in 2022. The other guy who started 6 games this year is redshirt freshman DJ Chester. That's 4 guys combining for 121 starts. G.J. Chester has started 6, and he was the number 54 overall prospect in the country in the class of 2023 and the number 1 interior offensive line prospect according to 24/7 Sports. Defensively, you like how I'm going over everything? A guy complained last week on the Game Week show that I didn't talk enough about the game and the matchup. But we always kind of recap the previous game. But this week, we don't have that luxury because of the bye week. So LSU, let's see, USC and UCLA would rank 13th. They're 13th out of 16 SEC teams in scoring defense, 22.3 points per game, 14th in yards allowed, 372, and allows 127.7 rushing yards per game, which is 13th, and 244.3 passing yards, which is 15th. So defensively, giving up quite a bit. They have played USC and UCLA as non-conference opponents, and obviously played SEC teams. So they've had a pretty strong schedule. I mean, it doesn't seem like 22.3 points per game is that much, does it? So done a good job at getting to opposing quarterbacks, racking up 21 sacks this season. They lead the SEC at 3.5 sacks per game. Only 3 interceptions this year. Conversely, they don't give up a lot of sacks. I think the stat today was I think they've given up like 2 sacks this year. So haven't given up a whole lot. I wrote this before the Tennessee game, and I think this holds true in this one too. So this was when Arkansas had no chance to beat Tennessee, according to some, and people forget about SEC home games. And that's, one reason I talked about winning at Auburn, even though it was ugly, that it should be something that you celebrate. And you just kind of got to take it and say, hey, it's beautiful. It's ugly, but it's beautiful, because it is so hard to win on the road in the SEC. I pointed to a number where I looked at all the games leading up to that. Again, this was not this past weekend, not last weekend, but just before that. It was 82% of the games that were played were, within 2 scores. So if you're a 2-score game, then to me, there's reason to kind of stick around to the fourth quarter. So that was kind of the point that I was making with that statistic. So this is what I wrote. This is before Tennessee. It almost feels like Arkansas is a 4-touchdown home underdog given everything, but they're not. The line's 14 points on Bet Saracen. The line is set like that to draw even betting on both sides. A 14-point game means we should expect this one to be competitive going into the fourth quarter. And if it is, then it should be rocking in Razorback Stadium. If it is, then tickets start feeling like it was worth it. The whole point of this story was kind of like going down all the games in Razorback Stadium recently where you just felt like you spent all this money and just kind of let down. And if they win, you just can't put a price on it. Guys, you could not put a price on that ticket. If you stuck around and didn't leave, you couldn't put a price on it. Whatever you paid for your Texas ticket in 2021, you got a bargain. Whatever you paid for your 2021 Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Missouri tickets, it was a deal. It's hard to put a price on an environment that is possible when that place is rocking with 76,000 people. It's hard to win on the road in the SEC. That's one reason I tried to make a point that fans should enjoy the Auburn win instead of focusing on how ugly a win it was. The only home teams, and then I go into like talking about the breakdowns of the teams that lost who were home teams that lost by, significant margins. So, and that's kind of the case here also with LSU. The difference is now you kind of feel like, okay, they got something. They got some mojo going. They've got some things figured out. The offensive line is playing better. The defense, there's another story I wrote about how good this defense is and talking about going into year 2. Now, I'm not going to read all the things I was wrong about, just the thing I was right about, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay. We want to pop over to Connor. Are we ready for Connor? We might be able to get to some questions today. We're going to maybe do a little extended version with Danny on the Thursday show since we're not having him on today, so just in case you're wondering. Okay, let's go to Connor. Those of you who don't follow Connor, you got to follow him at Connor Goodson. He was at Hot Springs and Pine Bluff over the weekend for the Arkansas basketball tip-off tour. provided a lot of great content. You can read all of that stuff at HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Connor, how's it going?
What's up, Trey?
So you were in Hot Springs, you were in Pine Bluff. Which was better?
Well, from a press area standpoint, I have to lean towards Hot Springs just because it's easier to get into, and the digs in the Banco ZK Arena are just a little bit better. But both events were nice. I mean, I thought it was for an event being announced 12 days ahead of time, and you know how busy fall is with families have kids in sports and schools in, so the weekend's really the only time that families have to get things taken care of and time together. So I thought, for it being announced on such short notice, I thought it was a pretty good turnout at both venues, honestly.
So your opinion on your overarching opinion on what you saw out of this team and just in the event in general?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that going forward, it sounds like Calipari wants to do this more often going forward, and I think it's a really great event. I think the concept of it is really good, and I think that they learned some things that they'll probably do different going forward. And the basic goal of this was to just kind of get fans acclimated to the team, to understand who they are, who Calipari is, get familiarized, and you saw a lot of kids at both venues were getting autographs, getting extended time one-on-one with players. And, I think that goes a long way into getting, families invested when their kids, meet a player and get to spend time with a player. That goes a long way in getting them invested for the upcoming season. So that was the real goal of this event. It wasn't necessarily, I thought it was going to be more of a red-white type of scrimmage-based thing, but, it was basically just a practice both days. They're obviously banged up, and I think it accomplished what it was set out to do with it being short notice and kind of thrown together last minute. There's obviously a lot of room to improve it going forward, but it was a good event. It served its purpose, and I think that we'll see it just continue to grow going down the line. But from a basketball standpoint, I know a lot of people were disappointed that it wasn't a full-blown scrimmage where it was just, keeping score and the red-white game that everyone expected. But for someone who kind of likes to watch where the bread is made and kind of in the nitty-gritty of, how a practice is conducted and stuff, it was really interesting to watch.
So you had a few guys out, Davis, Sanchez, Chavis, Lawson Blake, obviously, and then Adu and Thero were limited, right?
Yep. So that was, you said it right there. Those guys were very, very limited. Thero and Adu did some of the 5-on-0 work where they were kind of playing on air, doing some fast break up and down the court, but they didn't do any contact, anything like that. No drills, none of the live action stuff. John L. Davis he was in the shoot around at the beginning of the Hot Springs event, but for the majority of the Pine Bluff event, he was just over on the bench. And so we didn't really see him get up any shots or anything. And obviously wasn't dressed out. But, man, from what I saw, this team, there were, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positives to take away from this team. And it was also just a glorified practice. So you can't take too much stock away from that. And I did see some good things, but it's obvious this team is going to be much different with the veteran presences of Adu Thero, Jonas Adu, and John L. Davis. You can just tell that those guys kind of carry themselves a little bit differently than some of the younger guys. And I think that completely changes the dynamic of this team once you get them healthy. And I think, on the flip side of that, it's been a great opportunity for some of these younger players to really get some reps in practice and get some opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, that's great, Connor. Are these guys going to be back for Kansas? Does it even matter, really? I mean, I know it's an exhibition, but are they going to be back?
That's tough to say. Calipari didn't really inspire much confidence last night in his little media scrum after the event. He said that he's not going to risk getting getting them guys back quicker than they need to be. If he feels like they need to be held out longer, he's going to hold them out. He kind of just said, it's an exhibition game. Why would I do that?
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah,
he's right, but we're keeping score.
Selfishly, I want all 9 guys on the floor. I want to see the real deal. I want them to be completely ready, and I want to see them beat Kansas. I don't think that any fan in Bud Walton Arena wants it any other way, but it's sometimes it's hard as fans for them to kind of put that to the side and think big picture.
Yeah.
Especially when you've talked about it numerous times, what it takes to get to a game and the process of doing all that. So, it's tough to sometimes think of that big picture, but at the end of the day, you would rather have those guys, playing completely healthy at the end of March than in October, and I think that's what Calipari is getting at as well. And
no question, no question about it. I mean, it's the smart thing. You broke down some of your impressions on some of the players. I'm just going to kind of ask you about a couple of guys here and there, and you kind of broke it up into different days. But let's start with DJ Wagner. Just your impressions on watching him. What stood out?
Yeah, so DJ Wagner, the first thing that I noticed, like when going through like the shoot around and stuff, he is a pro. Like he has a pro mindset. Like he's not messing around. You saw some of the younger guys maybe like taking some moments to have like some joke around, mess around, but Wagner was there, kind of just all business. And then when we got into the drill work and some of the live action, he was all like he has one speed, it's full speed. He was consistently the first guy down the floor, even beat the defense sometimes during the 5-on-5 action. And I think that he's really ready to take that next step. Obviously looked a little healthy. He had a brace on his ankle that I noticed yesterday. He could be one of those guys that's also a little banged up, but he didn't really show it. Mm-hmm. He looked really good. And I think that, Calipari, when we talked to him in his press conference, he said that DJ is, his work ethic is insane. And you really saw that. I thought that, he looked a lot more comfortable and confident compared to the film that I saw from him in Kentucky last year.
What did you think of Boogie? I think Boogie's going to be the best player when everything's said and done. He's going to be the best player on this team.
I don't really see how Boogie Fland is going to spend time on the bench. I think that Boogie Fland, it's going to be tough to not have him in a starting role in some capacity, or at the very least, I think that he's a guy that could play 30 minutes for you eventually. He's still one thing that I noticed. Calipari is riding Boogie Fland hard. Like any mistake that Boogie Fland makes, Calipari is there to call it out. There was one time where he passed up what should have been an easy layup and instead kicked it out to Billy Richmond, who swung it to DJ Wagner, and that forced a tough shot in the paint. And Calipari got on the mic and was like, he's like, to the crowd, was like, would y'all rather see an easy layup or that crazy pass? And then he kind of stopped and lit into Boogie Fland on some of his decision making. And so that kind of thing, I always think back to what Calipari said about Derrick Rose at Memphis in his first year, how Calipari said that Derrick Rose thought he hated him for that whole first season. And it was just because Calipari saw the potential in Derrick Rose and was, holding him to a very high standard. And I think you're kind of seeing that same thing with Boogie Fland. Not saying that he's going to be Derrick Rose, because that's a pretty high bar to reach, but I think that Boogie Fland's going to be a special talent, and it's going to be hard for him not to play.
In most years, Connor, like a guy like Billy Richmond would be like the guy in the class. Like there's been guys that have been much lower rated, have been the guy in the class, and I almost feel like we don't even talk about him very much. But this guy can really shoot the ball. He's number 27th ranked prospect in the country coming out of high school. What did you see from him?
Yeah, and to your point, this isn't a knock at like Eric Musselman or any of the previous coaches, but it's like, he would have been like a cornerstone piece in some of those classes. Like he would have been the guy that everyone's like, this is the dude. And, to be fair, you saw flashes of that this weekend. I mean, there was countless times where he was, running and down in transition in the open floor and threw down a dunk that like looked like an NBA level dunk. His I mean, he's got the insane athleticism. He's longer than a 4-day weekend. It's just, I mean, he has all the tools. Still a little raw. He showed that he could heat up. He hit he went on a heater there towards the end of both practices on Saturday and Sunday. He really started knocking down shots, but there's still a little polishing needed to be done there. He reminds me a lot of a more raw version of Ricky Council, not necessarily the Ricky Council that Arkansas fans saw, but the Ricky Council earlier in his career, where he just really had that athleticism and that size to use to his advantage. And, his bag and his jump shot came later in his career, but he's a raw athlete. And I think that his length is really, really underrated. And I think he's going to give some SEC guards a lot of issues with that length and his work ethic on the defensive end.
What about a couple of older guys? I mean, like we're talking about sophomores, like they're older, but like DJ Wagner, Zvonimir Ivisic. What did you think? It was Ivisic healthy? Last we saw that picture of him in the boot. Was he good to go?
Yeah, he competed. He was a full participant in both days. He did have a couple of stretches where he was switching in and out with Trevon Brazil, but I think that they were just trying to get different looks with different guys, so they didn't play one guy at the 5 the whole time. They kind of rotated those guys in, and I was pretty impressed with Ivasic's his passing ability. It really, that was the one thing that really stood out to me. Like, they were really emphasizing ball movement for most of both days. And I thought that Big Z is a passer and kind of set, especially in that high post, he was really dishing a diamond and finding guys in tight windows. And I wasn't really expecting to see that from him, but that was good to see. Obviously, he needs to come a little ways as a jump shooter outside. There was, at the end of the practice yesterday, Calipari, they did something where they put 5 minutes on the clock and have guys shoot at either end of the floor for 5 minutes straight. And Calipari says that if you can hit 60 to 65 threes in those 5 minutes, then he's fine with you shooting in game. Well, Ivasic was the only one that went sub 50 and hit 40 of them or 42 or something like that. And so Calipari got on the mic and asked the crowd, should Big Z shoot any threes? And the crowd says no. And so Calipari's like, yeah, no, he shouldn't. Go inside or in this drill, make 63s. And that was kind of how things ended. He just threw some shade at Big Z. But,
how many do you have to make?
You have to make 60 to 65 in 5 minutes, shooting from one spot continuously like that.
Are you getting the ball kicked out to you over and over again?
Yeah. You're getting, so they're just standing in one spot and they're getting the ball, catch and shoot situations. And so,
could you do it?
So, yeah.
You think you could do it, Connor?
I mean, maybe. I'm not athletic.
High school 3-point line.
I probably could if you gave me a little bit. I mean, that's the only thing I had going for me growing up. I mean, I wasn't the most athletic. I didn't have the biggest bag, but man, I could hit the three, especially the corner. I mean, you set me up in that corner.
All right, we might have to test it out. I could
knock a couple of
Yeah, I'll participate.
We can do that.
I'll participate too. Okay, so I think we covered pretty much everybody who was healthy and who is going to play considered to play like a significant role, except for Trevon Brazil.
Yep, I was about to say there's one guy that out of everyone, I was completely he looks like a different player, and I was the biggest Trevon Brazil critic last year. I mean, he looked like a shell of himself. I mean, I know he played 9 games in 2022 before he tore his ACL, but I mean, from what he looked like in that stretch to what we saw last year, it was unrecognizable. And, a lot of that happened to do with his aggressiveness, his effort, his hustle. And it just looked like a guy that his heart wasn't in it. Obviously the team struggled a lot, which has something to do with it. But I think Brazil, this change with Calipari and a whole new coaching staff, it's not a change of scenery, but I mean, it kind of is in a way for him. And I think that he's been one guy who's benefited the most out of everyone from that change of scenery. He just looks like a completely different player. He was shooting the three really well. He looks bigger. He put on some really good weight. He was going up with both hands really strong. Even on rebounds, there's times last year where he would just kind of half-ass a grab where the ball would be, bouncing towards his direction. He would try to reach out with one hand and then lollygag back to the other end because he didn't get the rebound. Well, Chuck Martin and Kenny Payne were really emphasizing for their big men to go up and make sure they haul in the rebound with both hands. And, obviously the fundamentals of boxing out, getting your body on somebody and that stuff. But Trevon Brazil, I didn't see him have a lapse in that area one time both days. I mean, it looks like he's really taking to the coaching. He was really locked in and looked super motivated, even though it was just a practice. I mean, I was completely blown away by him. He looks like a completely different player, and I'm really hoping that it translates into the game because I think that if we see that version of Trevon Brazil, he could be in for a special season.
Connor Goodson joining us again. You can follow Connor at Connor Goodson on Twitter, and he is going to provide a lot of great basketball guys, as you can see. Connor knows his stuff when it comes to hoops. And we're 11 days from the Kansas exhibition in Bud Walton Arena. That's Friday at 8 o'clock. It is being televised, right? It's on SEC Network. And
yeah, I believe it's on
then you've got TCU on November 1st. Is that right?
Yep, in Fort Worth. I don't know if that one's going to be actually televised or not. I don't think it is.
So two charity exhibitions, one here, one away, and then it's Lipscomb on the 6th.
Yeah, and then after Lipscomb, you've got Baylor. I mean, they're going to be tested early and often. We're going to really figure out what this Arkansas team's all about early in the season.
Yeah, and that's in Dallas against Baylor.
Yeah.
All right. Any other things that we didn't think to touch on, Connor? Anything stand out? Anything unexpected that you saw from the team?
Not really. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Jalen Karuletwa, who is the walk-on guard. He's, I think he's 6'8". He was one of the kind of others. Yeah. And he, I thought, really stood out to me as some guy that, he's probably not going to play any minutes in games. He's not going to be a guy that even probably develops into a rotation guy. But, I mean, just from what I saw, he was getting after guys. He didn't miss a single shot on Saturday in warm-ups. I mean, he was just automatic from three. And he's a guy that I think for sure is going to make these guys better, and he's really making them better in practice. And that stood out to me also, is that, and that's kind of what Calipari said, that he wants to bring in these guys that are going to be able to make those first 9 in the main rotation better in practice and really test them. And I think we saw that with Jaden on Saturday and Sunday. So I was really impressed and wasn't really expecting to see that, but good to see nonetheless.
All right, Connor. So we're going to get together. We're going to go to FAC or something, and we're going to test it out. We're going to do the 5 minutes, and we'll come back here and report.
Let's do it. Let's live stream it. I mean, we got this. Yeah, let's live stream it. I mean,
might as well.
Maybe we might not want to make that big of fools of ourselves, but
yeah,
we'll figure it out. We'll see what our loyal listeners want us to do.
We might just come back with a number for them.
We could do that too. Yeah,
right,
save ourselves from an embarrassment.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody. Again, follow Connor at Connor Goodson 24/7, and he's been putting all this stuff out. Now he's got it in a lot of detail. And I think I said Connor Goodson. He's with 24/7, obviously, but it's just Connor Goodson on Twitter altogether. He put like all this stuff broken down in depth for you, for those who prefer to read on HawgSports. So if you want to read his breakdowns and more in-depth analysis on what he saw from the basketball team, and of course he's going to have a ton of stuff like that at HawgSports, HawgSports.com, which I believe is just $1 right now for your first month. Is that right? Are we doing the $1 deal? I believe we got the $1 deal going. So it's not – there's 2 ways to sign up. You can sign for 30% off, okay, which is a great deal for the entire year, or you can sign up for $1 for the first month. The cool thing about the dollar deal is you sign up, you test things out, you see if you like it, and if you like it and you want to stick around and you pay full price month 2, which is $9.95, you also become eligible to get Paramount Plus for free. Okay, so Paramount Plus is a really good streaming service. It's all part of the Paramount Global CBS ecosystem that we're in at 24/7 Sports. So we have that really cool package, and Paramount Plus is about $100 a year. HawgSports is about $100 a year. So either way you look at it, you're getting something for free. So pretty good deal to sign up for $1, see if you like it, and if you do, that next month you go on full price and you can get Paramount Plus for free. So a heck of a deal there, and read all of Connor's stuff. And again, Danny West stuff. We're going to have Danny hopefully for an extended period of time like we did with Connor today. Ahead of the LSU game. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting recruiting stuff. I know some new offers just recently went off, so you want to make sure you capitalize if you're Arkansas coaching staff on the success that you had coming off that Tennessee game. All right, questions? We haven't taken questions in a while, so I wanted to make sure I did some of that. Okay, we're going to start from what is in there now, and we're going to work our way backwards, okay, until we get to stuff that I see I've already covered. You want Bob Holt? Wade wants Bob Holt in that challenge also. We could get all the media members in there. I'm going to tell you, I think I'm going to do it, and I think I'm going to surprise Connor with the number I put up. Let's see. Kay Gully says, great show. Contact Eurocheck and your connection to University requests a whiteout. You imagine the atmosphere of the Hogs in the road uniforms and white helmets Saturday night. Yeah, I think it's probably – I don't know if it's too late. When do they usually do it like a week out? They'll announce a certain theme for the game. But you know what I would like to see is just the full stadium without any stripes or whiteout or just regular crowd. And, you know, it's going to be, what's the weather going to be? I think it's going to be nice, like low 60s maybe around game time, low 70s to low 60s. Let's see what it says here. On Saturday, it's a high 76, low of 50. It just gives me today, so I can't get the whole deal. But I would imagine we're going to look at somewhere in the 60s, upper 60s to low 60s for that game on Saturday. So you might have some jackets on that would mess up a whiteout. These shirts, we've been talking about doing some merch. We do the some of the things like Danny West. He says Hog Dadgum Sports, or I don't know, Pound with Passion, or the time I called my roofer, HawgSports roofing service. Danny had a list of ideas that we could possibly do. Let me see what he sent me. Had some funny stuff. Some of the things that I've said over the years or that he said. Can he play safety? Mid-range 3-star, sloppy get ready, some inside the message board type stuff. I don't know. I actually had designed hats, like camo hats that said Hog Dadgum Sports, kind of a Danny West thing. But I made these a few years ago. I don't know why I didn't mass produce these. I just made them for people at HawgSports. I don't know what that is. People arguing back and forth. Storm that, what is going on? This is just two people arguing. Guys, I appreciate the comments, but let's leave this for questions in the live chat. I think you have a credit balance. You sat through every minute of West. I did too. I mean, it was my job, though. I had to. All right, here we go. John says, Trey, what do you make of Braylon Russ's post about needing a new agent the week of one of the biggest games of the season? Nothing. I mean, I think he probably sees an opportunity to maybe say, hey, look, I've done well. But I don't think that you don't really see in season, lobbying for more money, that kind of stuff. That's something that's handled after the season. But, I think that Braylon has probably put himself in a position where, hey, he's probably, worth more than he was before. But he was also a 4-star recruit. He was highly recruited. I mean, Tennessee was a school that I believe he visited Tennessee. But, yeah, I saw that. I mean, could be they just – I'm not reading too much into that, but I don't know that he said he wanted a new agent, just looking for the best agent. Got another question about Braylon. Yeah, I think we're probably reading a little bit much into him wanting representation. Actually, maybe ranked on the slick. So Arkansas actually fell in the rankings. LSU moved up to number 8. Arkansas slid. They were like, what were they? Like, I can't remember, like 5th most receiving votes, and they slid to like 8th most receiving votes or something. Yeah, LSU's going to have a defensive line. I mean, if Arkansas beats LSU this weekend, this is Addison Yates. If Arkansas beats LSU this weekend, is it worth another field storming? I mean, it's $500,000. Is it true that it goes to the other team? Somebody told me that. I didn't even know that. Does it go to the other team? And if so, how rich is Alabama right now? I mean, I'm sure they've had it happen to them every time they've lost. So, yeah, it'd be $500,000. I think that's probably enough if I'm the AD to say, hey, look, folks, this was great. It cost $250,000. Let's not do that again. The reason they do it, I saw the video of the the Tennessee lineman who shoves the person, knocks the girl over, and all that stuff, which he should not have done, obviously. But the reason that they have the field storming fines and all that stuff is to protect the players. And so things like that don't happen, you know. Earthman says LSU 21, Arkansas 3. Don't forget Oklahoma State's quarterback was 37 years old. He was a veteran in his 18th season as a college quarterback, and he was doing this. This was a celebration. Everybody's so positive. I love the positivity. It's good to have that before a bye week. Arkansas still has issues, though, guys. I mean, like it's not like everything's gone away. You know, they still have some problems. They got a really good defense, really good defensive coaching staff. The offensive line looks like maybe they're starting to come together and figure some things out. But, you know, Taylor Green, how healthy is he? If Taylor Green can't be mobile like we're used to seeing, do you want to see him just as a pocket passer? Or would it make more sense to put Malachi Singleton in there? I think that's a reasonable question to ask. I mean, Singleton, you know, it's not like putting Malik Hornsby in there against LSU several years ago. I mean, Singleton, I think, has shown that he's capable of moving the ball down the field. And he's also pretty mobile. But I don't know. I've kind of thought about that. Like if Taylor's just in there to throw the ball, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best option at quarterback. I'm not just trying to stir stuff up. I really kind of thought about that. Braxton's not playing because he has a bone bruise, which is the same injury that Taylor Green has. Taylor Green has a bone bruise. Yeah, you should move to Northwest Arkansas, Meiji. If you're considering it, just do it. Drop everything and do it. Aaron Wojciechowski, I'll be at MSU first trip ever to Starkville. So I'm not going to Starkville for a couple of reasons. First, the basketball game. I want to see Arkansas basketball on Friday. And secondly, Aaron, bring earplugs because they ruin everything with the cowbells. They should be illegal. They ruin the whole atmosphere of the game. Like you can't hear anything else. You can't hear the PA or, you know, what they're saying. For me in the press box, I can't hear. What'd you say? You know, just clanging for 3.5 hours. Arkansas is only a 3-point dog against a top 10 team. Saturday is going to be a great game. Should be. They say the home team, some people say, the home team gets like 4 points automatically. So hoping the end zones get repainted this way. Yeah, I know. They looked dingy. The hog in the middle of the field looked dingy. The end zones looked dingy. I don't know what that was, but Trey, which SEC team is your least favorite? Whew. Vanderbilt. Hate Vanderbilt. Nobody hates Vanderbilt, but I do. All right. LSU hate week. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me today. Thanks for Connor Goodson, to Connor Goodson for all of his insight on Razorback basketball. And we're going to be back Thursday. We're going to have probably Glenn West. I haven't reached out to him yet, but Glenn has done it the last couple of years from the LSU side on 24/7 Sports to hopefully give us a little bit of insight in the Tigers. We're going to bring Danny West on, of course, to talk a little bit more in depth about the matchup and the latest in recruiting, and maybe we'll get to your questions. It's hard on Thursday's show because we have, a good number of guests and time just kind of flies by. So that's it. That's the show today. Appreciate you joining me, everybody. Thanks to Connor. Thanks to all of you for your questions and for hopping on here. We got 1,100 people watching right now. It's amazing. Really appreciate you. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday. We'll be back with the walk and talk after that on Saturday, which the walk and talk was crazy. I mean, that was one of the wildest things. I didn't even know it was that, like, I don't mean to say, like, man, that was really good. But, like, when I was doing it, I thought it was, like, fun and be okay. And then I went back and watched. I was like, oh, my gosh, that was really cool. So if you haven't watched the walk and talk after the Tennessee game, make sure you go do that because it was it really gives a good look at the environment there. And all I did was walk around with the camera. Everybody else did everything. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.